Welcome to the Coffee and Counseling Podcast, where two licensed psychotherapists give you their unfiltered opinions on mental health, wellness, life, and everything in between. It's real, raw, and ready to challenge what you think you know. Get ready for some tough love. Before we begin, just a brief disclaimer, this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and does not take the place of therapy. We hope you enjoy today's session. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Coffee and Counseling, where we don't spill the tea, but the coffee will be piping hot while we talk about all things counseling. We're your hosts, Rachel Steinhardt
and Stephanie Van Schaick. We've officially entered the winter season, a time when our bodies naturally want to slow down, even if the world around us feels anything but slow. So today we wanted to bring you a shorter, lighter session to talk about why it can feel so hard to pump the brakes and how to give yourself genuine permission to rest. And before we dive in, we want to take a moment to acknowledge all of our listeners. So for those of you who recently finished celebrating Hanukkah, we hope this week offers you space to unwind. And for those preparing for Christmas in a few days, we hope this conversation gives you a moment to breathe before everything kicks into high gear. And if you don't celebrate either, we're glad you're here too, because slowing down is something all of us struggle with in different ways. So let's take a deep breath together and grab your coffee or non-caffeinated beverage for this session, and let's get on into it. In the spirit of today's session about permission to rest, we decided to swap out our one high and low of this week and instead each talk about maybe one intention we have to slow down over the next week. So, Rachel, do you want to give yours first?
Yes. I don't know if this is like synonymous with slowing down, but I think for my particular goal of slowing down, it is. I went to the library for my kids like I always do. And for the first time, I got myself something, which I don't know if I'm going to get the chance to read any of it. But my intention is that my version of slowing down in a healthy and productive way is to, in the moments like before bed where you're like scrolling or trying to, just, I guess, calm your brain down to go to sleep or relax, I'm going to try really hard to turn to a book instead, which is very difficult for me after an entire day of being overstimulated with work and children. But something I really want to get back into that's been very difficult since I've become a parent. So that is going to be my intention of slowing down, is I'm going to try and maybe not finish the book, but I'll at least try to start it.
I love that. And I definitely think that's an opportunity to slow down, because it really does bring our attention and just giving us our time where we're not running around and just doing like one task and then doing.
I think it's forcing my brain. We talked in one of our previous episodes about holding attention, and I think it's forcing my brain to slow down and stay focused on one thing. I'll make some hot cocoa, I'll light some scented candles, and I'll get cozy with the book. Oh my gosh, that sounds so nice, actually. But that's my intention. But what's your stuff?
Awesome. So mine is, I love to-do lists, and it's something that I actually have running to make sure that I do my best to not forget things and do what I need to do on a daily basis. Is I have a running list on my notes in my notes app on my phone that every day as I go through it, I erase it so that I feel accomplished. I also can keep track of it. And one thing I've tried to do, and I kind of fell back on recently, that I'm going to try to set an intention to do this week, is add in a slow down thing on each day for my to-do list. And I think that what I'm going to do is, this is going to be deep breathing, because I know that I benefit so much. Like, for an example, whenever I get an ad on my phone, like if I'm watching YouTube or something like that, and the ad for Headspace comes up and it does like the simulation for box breathing, and I do it, it's so great. Like, it feels so good mentally and physically to slow down and just really do some deep breathing. So I think that I'm going to set an intention and put it on my to-do list so that it's something that every single time I look at it, until I do it, it's going to be something that I am reminded of. And I think that'll be really helpful for me in the long run with slowing down. And I think in and of itself, it's slowing down. So that's my intention.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. So let's just dive right in for this session about giving yourself true permission to rest, exploring like why slowing down feels so hard, how we can slow down, and what that can look like.
All right, so let's get into it. Why does slowing down feel so hard? So, honestly, in short, the answer to this is different for every person. I think that this can be true for so many different reasons and can present itself differently in different humans. So, I know, when I was in like the school stage of life and things were constantly on my to-do list of papers and tests and studying, slowing down would make me feel guilty because I was like, well, I need to study and do tests, and people feel that way with work as well. I can be doing this or I can be doing that, and there's an element of guilt sometimes that comes with slowing down, feeling like slowing down means you're not being productive, that taking rest means you're not getting things done. Our nervous system stays in this go mode from such a habit of moving and going, and you know this is true for all people and all walks of life, but I always say it is a very New York mentality where it's just like go, next thing, go, 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 go. Not to push away our Floridians or anybody else for that matter, because we have productivity all over the place, but
Mhm.
it really is this mindset and this culture of I need to keep pushing, I need to keep moving. And this is a topic I know that we covered a little bit in other sessions as well, but at the end of the day, we're literally wiring ourselves, and we've been trained to be wired. We've been trained that it's like the right thing to do to just constantly go, not
Mhm.
even realizing in the process that that in itself can actually create more harm than good sometimes. And really just stopping can feel like we're losing control of the situation or we're wasting time. Um, and just the whole productivity culture makes rest feel like you're doing something wrong and that you have to make up for it, or that you have to feel bad about it, and it's just super not helpful. And sometimes slowing down brings up emotions that we've been avoiding. And so I know we also talked about this in our emotional avoidance episode, where sometimes we like to keep ourselves busy because we don't really want to be alone with our thoughts or our emotions or memories, whatever it is. And slowing down gives our brain, our emotions, our nervous system the opportunity to kind of open up Pandora's box, whether or not we want to. We have more space to um, welcome or not welcome in different triggers, different things that will come up for us. And when we don't really want to come in contact with those things, people tend to stay busy. When you calm yourself down, your body and mind are more open and more susceptible to experiencing thoughts or emotions that you may or may not want to come in contact with. And
Mhm.
we really need to normalize the discomfort that comes for a lot of people with the concept of taking a beat, sitting in quiet, sitting with yourself, taking rest, um, just taking a minute. It's so difficult for so many of us, and hopefully within this session we're really going to talk about why we have to retrain our brain into recognizing that it is one of the healthiest things we can do, not just for our physical health and our mental health, but even for the cup of productivity. Like, in order for you to stay productive, you need to be able to take these breaks and sit in the silence and not just rest, but enjoy the rest and allow yourself the permission to experience it to its fullness, and truly be mindful and present as you are taking some time and resting.
Mhm. I think you bring up the best word is like being, or best words, mindful and present. And until you can truly slow down, a lot of times we're just going from one thing to the next to the next. And slowing down really helps us to connect to the present moment. So let's talk a little bit about what slowing down actually looks like. Slowing down is not just doing nothing, although sometimes it can absolutely look like you're just doing nothing, but honestly, that's usually not what's happening. It's just doing things intentionally. That's what we mean by when we're talking about slowing down. It's doing things with intentionality. So, whether that be, we talked about this before, like about taking a moment, a mindful first sip of your coffee in the morning, if coffee is a part of your everyday thing, just taking a minute to relish in the first sip or couple of sips of that cup and doing it intentionally. It's moving slower instead of rushing, whether that be taking the first sip of coffee and slowly enjoying a little bit of it before just like guzzling it down, or just like walking instead of doing like the power walk that we do from place to place, whatever that is. And we talked about this in our last session a little bit about ADHD and the idea of multitasking. We're not talking about ADHD today, but this idea that multitasking is something that has really been propped up in our society. So slowing down would be the opposite of that. It's like one task at a time. Whatever I'm doing, I'm going to commit to doing that. Doesn't mean like 100% is always on that, but you're not trying to accomplish other things alongside the tasks that you have at hand. One way that it can look as well is adding white space to your day. So basically just meaning time that is not scheduled for other things. So maybe this is something that you schedule for an intentional slowdown. Like I said about my intention to put deep breathing onto my to-do list. That could be a little bit of white space for my day, or just like not scheduling anything and seeing what comes of that moment when you're at that moment. A lot of times I think we are so over scheduled, and it's like one thing to the next and the next and fitting everything in, and that could be really overwhelming. Saying no to extra commitments, some people, and I think that this also comes with uh, like experience and being okay with letting people down and age and all of that. Sometimes that it helps to improve. But sometimes we just want to say yes to everything. And maybe we actually want to do everything, but we have to be mindful that we do have a limited resource in our time and energy and finances and all of that. So anything that is just adding to your schedule or adding to your mind, adding to your plate that is just not uh, helpful for you and maybe just keeps you in the place of constantly being on edge and rushing, try saying no to some of those extra commitments, and or adjusting what it is that you're committing to. Maybe if someone's inviting you out to like they're doing a group dinner, maybe you stay for appetizers and you let them know ahead of time. It could be different and accommodated based on your life and what you need. Another way it can look is lowering the bar for the week. If you know that you have a really tough week mentally or physically, or you're waiting for news, or even separate of all of that, like we are heading into, for my fellow Christians who celebrate Christmas, we're heading into a time that maybe we don't want to be like extra productive with work and all of that. So let's set the bar a little lower of what we want to accomplish in terms of the traditional productivity that we want to nail everything on our to-do list. So just lowering the bar for whatever reason you feel. Small sensory changes can help as well. We talk about a lot how we experience the present moment through our senses. So anything that you can adjust in your environment that helps you to connect to one of those senses is something that helps with slowing down. So whether that be changing your lighting a little bit and being observant of that, having some calm, gentle music around, having something soft to touch, maybe that's petting a cat or a dog, or cuddling a blanket, whatever you like, just experiencing and trying to connect with your senses could be truly helpful in that.
Yeah, 100%. But the question remains, how do we do this and give ourselves the permission and not feel the guilt? So we're not just here to tell you what you shouldn't and should do. We're going to give you some pointers, guys. So let's talk about like this internal versus external concept of giving ourselves permission to rest, right? So external permission is when we allow ourselves to rest only because someone else is telling you it's okay, or because your circumstances are kind of forcing you into it. So that could be like, my doctor told me to slow down, so I guess I should. Everyone else is resting, so I guess I also can rest. Or I'm sick, so I have to rest. Or my partner told me to take a break because I'm starting to get cranky and I have to, right? So it's rest that feels allowed because the justifications that come from outside of you are kind of forcing you into it. And what's really wrong with that? When the external permission isn't there, then the rest feels unearned or lazy or guilty. You're right back where you started because you're not actually getting to the core of the problem, which is truly internal. So people who rely on external permission, a lot of the time they overwork until they burn out, or they'll feel anxious when they slow down. They'll need someone else to constantly validate their exhaustion and then validate being able to rest. And they still feel like they have to like earn rest through being as productive as humanly possible. Right. So that is really not the goal, the external permission. We really want to focus on the internal permission, just that permission to truly rest coming from yourself. So internal permission is when the permission is coming from within you, your own thought, your own beliefs, your own boundaries, needs, limits, and self worth, right? This isn't coming from an external source. This is you telling yourself, I am allowed to rest, period. So my body is tired. I'm going to take a nap. I'm not going to do the workout today. I deserve rest, even if I didn't finish every single thing on my to do list, right? Rest is part of being a functional human, and it's not a reward for something that I did. It's just listening to my body, recognizing that as a human being, rest is part of life, and I'm allowed to do nothing today if that's what I truly feel like I need. Again, we're not here saying, yeah, every single time you're not in the mood, just opt out of life. Obviously, if you've been here until now, you know Steph and I are not about that. But when you need it and when there's time for it, you're on vacation, sit in it, enjoy, and soak it up. Right. So internal permission will come from healthy self awareness, emotional regulation, a stable sense of worth, boundaries that don't depend on other people's validation. And when we give ourselves internal permission, rest isn't a negotiation, it's not conditional, it's something you need to justify. And that it's a basic human need. And it really makes me think of when we talk about, and we could talk about this when we talk about relationships in a separate episode. But when I think about this, I think about unconditional love, right? Because really what this is unconditional love of ourselves and to ourselves. And a lot of the time what I see with clients is people who have a hard time with self-confidence, self-love, self-acceptance have a very hard time giving themselves permission to rest or take a break to any capacity because they're so used to conditional love that the conditional love is also conditional to themselves. And it's just a very unhealthy way of going about, yourself, your relationship with the world, and just life in general and relationships with anybody. And we really want to reframe this concept that it's not you being lazy when you need to rest. Um, you know, you can set healthy boundaries around work, around rest. It doesn't have to mean whether I'm working, that like that's what I'm going to do until the end of time, or if I'm taking a break, that's what I'm going to do until the end of time. It's like everything else we talk about, and Steph's favorite word, it's a balance, right? Everything comes down to balance. And I really want all our listeners, as we're having this conversation, to start thinking about what is one thing that you're going to do, even just today, to slow down a little bit, maybe in a way that pushes you outside of your comfort zone. So let's take a minute and think about that as well. Steph and I know in the beginning of our session today talked about what we want to, set intentions for it to slow down. Think about as we're going through this, what is coming up for you? Are any of the topics we're bringing up making you feel uncomfy? Maybe it's striking a chord with you. And is there a way of resting that's making you feel like, is it unattainable? Does it feel weird? Does it feel wrong? And start to really explore that within yourself.
Mm. So, with that being said, we are going to take a minute today to give you that time to pause. And you have the time, you're listening to this podcast. So, we're going to take this opportunity together to do a little bit of a guided pause, a short grounding and mindfulness moment. So, if you know of any type of breathing technique, feel free to use that here. You can do any type of deep breathing that works for you, whether that be completely unstructured, or it's something like the 5-7-8 technique or box breathing, or whatever other method you prefer. feel free to take creative expression at this point. So, whatever you choose, let's take a couple of deep breaths while noticing any tension that we have within our body, and trying to do our best to release where that tension is showing up, whether that's in your jaw, your shoulders, your chest, your legs. Just allow a little bit of a body scan throughout and try to mindfully and intentionally relax those muscles. And then turn inward. What things are you holding on to? Is it physical stress? Is it fear that you have other things that you should be doing right now? What things might be holding you back right now that you're holding on to that might be making it very difficult for you to just pause here? And while you continue to breathe and notice these things, let's set an intention. Can you release one of these things that's coming up for you right now that you're holding on to that is not helpful for you or blocking you in this moment? So just take another few seconds to deep breathe and think about this. Okay, I hope that everyone found a moment to themselves. And there's so many different ways that you can do this in your life. There's apps to do this. If you want to do it free form without any additional assistance, that's fine too. If you feel like you need some guidance, there's plenty of options on YouTube. Pick the amount of time you have that you want to allot for it. You can do 5-minute guided meditations or 5-minute visualizations or 1-minute breathing to slow down. Whatever you'd like, there's probably something out there for you. So go ahead and choose that and think about what your intention can be for that.
In this episode, in the past, we've mentioned very briefly this element of control that comes with feeling like we constantly need to be productive and feeling like we are not allowed to rest. And so much of mental health is about us trying to hold on for dear life to something that feels out of control. It's connected to so many of the different mental health diagnoses and disorders that we see every day. And believe it or not, this is really no different. So when Stephanie said in the guided meditation, what is coming up for you? What might happen if you rest? What might happen if you stop working, if you stop studying, if you take a minute for yourself from your family, if you take a moment to sit alone with your thoughts, with your feelings, what fear, what thoughts, what feelings might come up for you? And in this thought process, if you're starting to feel anxious, if there are things that you can list that feel more than maybe you can handle, if it's a lot of racing thoughts that are coming up for you that you don't really know what to do with, sometimes slowing down makes us realize when we look internally that there's some work to be done. Sometimes this exercise and slowing down can make us realize that we would benefit from therapy. We would benefit from a vacation. We would benefit from a more extensive break. A lot of the time, this productivity level where we don't allow ourselves to stop at all was giving us the opportunity to escape from things that we didn't want to face. And when we finally give ourselves that opportunity to take a moment and to relax and to rest, we realize that in resting, we can't escape it. And if that is coming up for you in this episode, if you're realizing that that might align with what you're experiencing, this might be a great time for you to start and maybe call your first therapist or second or third. That's okay. We've talked about coming back into that space if that's what you need. But, it's coming into 2026. It's a great time to start something new. That can be your intention if that's what you're feeling you might need. But just understanding that slowing down, taking a beat, getting support, whatever it is that you're feeling like you're needing, it's truly, truly not a weakness. If anything, it's giving you the ability to take the reins on your life because, as we know, and if you've been following along, a lot of the things that we've learned that mask as keeping us in control of our lives actually end up controlling us.
Mhm.
And being, overworked or addicted to work or feeling like we can't stop or we can't take a break, think about it. You're not really in control in that situation if you feel like a slave to the things you need to do around you and you can't give yourself 5 minutes to stop. Now, I do
Mhm.
want to take a moment and acknowledge that there are people, unfortunately, a lot of situations, a lot of people listening to this that are probably listening to this thinking, I can't take a break. Come look at my life, Rach and Steph. I can't. I don't have help. I don't have support. I'm holding everything together and I would love to take a break, but I'm unable to. I just want to know that we see you, we hear you. There are a lot of people in that situation, and it's valid. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are times where you don't have the ability to take a break. And so, for those of you who've been in the situations or you are in the situation where you feel like a break just sounds like winning the lottery and it's completely inaccessible to you right now, first of all, you're not alone. There are a lot of people in that boat. And I just want to tell you to hold on because there will eventually come an end to that experience. But what I want to encourage you to do is try to find what I like to call pockets of time. Pockets of time can be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 seconds, where in your mind and in your body, your only thoughts are on you, whether that is to breathe, whether that is to literally walk around your house, around your office, whether that's to take a moment and get yourself a snack, but doing it with the intention, right? We talk so much about intention, doing it with the intention that you are filling your own cup, that you are doing something for you. Grab 5 minutes here, grab 3 minutes there, and do it with that mindful presence that this is your version of a break until you're able to give yourself a larger one because we're here to meet you where you're at. We're not here to create false realities of the world that are not attainable to you. If you're in a situation where, sitting down and reading for 30 minutes or taking a bubble bath for an hour or watching a movie is not happening for you right now, that's okay. That's a real part of life. Not everybody has that. And Lord knows we've been in those situations, so we get it. So
Mhm.
that's you. Just focus on the small pockets and remember that you can work your way there. Even if you're not there right now, you will eventually get through that tunnel and get to the side where you can give yourself a little bit more time and space to get the rest you so clearly need and deserve. So just
Mhm.
keeping that in mind.
Beautifully said, Rachel. So we hope that today's session helped anyone who needed to hear and be reminded that they need to give themselves true permission to rest and to have the time so that you can slow down and take some time for yourself, even if that's just a tiny pocket that you can afford at this time. So we're going to invite all of you to just take an additional one tiny slow moment today, whatever that looks like for you, and feel free to share it with us. You can share it to our Instagram at Coffee and Counseling Podcast or email it over to us at coffeeandcounselingpodcast@gmail.com. If you know anyone else who is struggling with this or who could benefit from this session, please consider sharing it, and we would appreciate that. And I'm sure whoever you send it to would appreciate it too. And we're taking a moment just to wish everyone who's celebrating Christmas a Merry Christmas. And if you're not, a slow, intentional transition from Hanukkah or just into the winter season if that's not what something you celebrate either. And we look forward to you joining us again next Tuesday for our next session.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, and comment any thoughts or opinions, questions below.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Please follow our Instagram at Coffee and Counseling Podcast and send any questions you have about any topic to us via direct message for a chance for your question to be featured in one of our next sessions. You can also email us your questions or topic suggestions at coffeeandcounselingpodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to check out some of our other sessions available to you right now. Once you drink up all of those and your coffee, come back next Tuesday for our next session.
The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute therapy or mental health advice. Listening to this podcast does not establish a therapeutic relationship between you and the hosts. If you are in need of support, we encourage you to seek help from a qualified mental health professional. This podcast is not a substitute for individualized care. We do offer individualized therapy. If you're interested in individual therapy with one of us, please visit our practice website and send us an email to set up a free consultation call. All of the links and our contact info will be in the show notes.